to go into our live Q&A here. Let me see if I can. There we go. All right, never render. So I'm gonna get the other microphone here, and these amazing gentlemen are gonna go forth and answer any of your questions. That goes also for the people all the way back there. If I don't see you, if I'm walking around with a microphone and you need any assistance, just wave me down. I don't know, pull my neck or something, do whatever, okay? I'm gonna give you guys this microphone. So, who has questions? Who got questions for
Test. Test. How about can we intro ourselves?
Yeah, go ahead and intro.
Can you start introduction? Can you introduce who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Hari, and I've been in the blockchain industry for I think I started in 2017. I worked with Ethereum co-founder from the stock exchange, and that is how I came to know about blockchain. I had my startup in 2018. I built a partner wallet, and right now I have a layer one blockchain omnichain startup, which been developing or developed. Right now is ongoing project. I also do consulting on cloud and DevOps. Yeah, those things.
Thanks. Everyone, my name is, let's round of applause for Arian. Thank you for joining. My name is Robert Janito, and I'm obsessed with making video games when I was a little kid. And then the new video game became financial video games and financial stuff. And in the blockchain industry, before there was an industry, 15 years ago, first heard about Bitcoin. And so we have a mutual friend. Yeah. So I view, like, with Ethereum, a lot of people have been like, yeah, I'm one of the co-founders, and just not. But Vitalik.
Vitalik is the founder.
Yeah.
And everyone else went in, you know?
Yeah, I view it like Vitalik, Anthony, and Gavin Woods. How do you feel?
I think the technical is Vitalik. Anthony just went in, he invested some money in.
Make sure
and the person, I'm not sure. All the brand behind the Ethereum is Vitalik.
Yeah, definitely. Well, anyways, that's me. My name is Robert, and big fan of Ethereum. Personally, we see a lot of these level 2s coming out. I think it's very hard to compete with a mind like Vitalik's. And Dimitri's here.
So the microphone guys, that little guy, pass it around with license. Go be crazy.
Hey everybody, as I said, I'm Shades, or Dimitri, whatever you want to call me. I'm Genius AI community member. In my real world, I like to do distributed stuff, and if you have any questions, I'm not going to mention, but I also like tokenomics, introduced by Genius AI, and blockchains. So I'm here to help you and understand more about what is needed.
All right, take questions.
Our first question right here.
My name is Megan. So my question is pertains to the security law. I know there's always people out there who will ask something, make a whole record. So I understand that he is not a blockchain, or blockchain in itself.
Smart contract. Yes.
So what are some of the security and protection that has our investment thinking that it's not going to be hacked and it's not going to however, what is security?
Yeah, good question. That's not the first time that we've actually seen security questions come up. Probably in the age of the internet, we are still definitely mature, but scamming attacks is happening everywhere. So this issue is on the it requires you to have internet hygiene where you do things the right way, you understand where things are. I would say, just in general, taking your time before you respond to some very forceful demand like a phishing attempt or somebody's asking you for money or something in the field or besides something like that. Just take your time, step back, take a breath and say, hey, did I want to do that? Did somebody actually wanted me to do that? Now, in a crypto space, in the Web3 space, Genius space, I think there are a lot of different things that are being done. First of all, for example, you are operating during contracts that are not centralized. You don't need investors anywhere. You keep your seed phrase. And so as long as you keep your seed phrase safe, you don't resign to everybody, then you should be okay. But then you also need to think that, from a product perspective, you probably can speak to that. I think a lot of things are non sort of like customer to business level, but business to business. For example, can somebody hold you out, wire out, reverse the engine from the goods, so that should probably explain that.
Thank you for your question. Security is a big, very big concern with blockchains, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts. I mean, the fact is that finances are automated with blockchains, cryptocurrencies. And the real world or the traditional finance world that we're in, finances aren't automated like at all. Like there's a degree of automation where people are signing off certain thresholds of values of batches of transactions, but ultimately the traditional financial world is not automated. But now that you have these systems where finances are automated and no one can help you or protect you from something, it's a big deal. I'll say with Genius AI, with Genius AI's launched 2.5 years ago, I volunteered to help direct the Solidity developers to keep them organized. Because when there's a development team, it helps to have somebody like, leading development, figuring out who's good at what, and saying like, oh, how about you work in this area? How about you work in that area? And when it came to Genius, or anything else really, it's like, wait, this, security is a big issue. It's a big thing. So what we opted to do, excuse me, what we opted to do was, hey, let's find another developer that works with like vulnerability research to independently like audit the code before the code goes out to the auditing agents like Glipnir Security, Certic, CoinFabric, there's lots of them. And this helped speed up a lot of things because this person, this independent security auditor, was well aware of what kind of packages these security groups expected. And so she helped the development team do that. So there was an independent security auditor, and then the community paid for 2 security audits for Genius AI. So now you had an independent security auditor, you had Glipnir Security, and then you had Certic, basically finding security issues that the other didn't have. So there's websites like Certic. If you guys are getting really deep with any smart contract or cryptocurrency, yeah, finding out about there being a security audit's really helpful. Anything you'd like to say about that?
Thank you. So I want to tell a small incident that happened in the security space. So it happened to one of my friends. He's technical. He's a blockchain developer. So what happened is someone reached him out saying, "Hey, we're a blockchain developer. We have some work to be done. Can you help?" And he said, "Yeah." And then they sent him a file. And he said, "Okay, this is something that you need to verify and send to us." As soon as he opened, it basically went to his browser, MetaMask, every single thing that he had, all the key phrase that he had in his computer. And it took everything, and all of a sudden, $30,000 worth of token is gone. $30,000. So there is two things involved in the cybersecurity. One is that the product that we build, we can put maximum number of protection that we can, but then there is also something that you have to do from your side. For example, the keys, if you keep it in a text file or photo, or if you keep it in an email, if someone take that information, then they will be able to get anything that you have in your wallet. Right? So there is things that involve from your side that you need to protect, and from our side, we will do everything from our side that we can protect.
Any other questions?
We have not spoken about NFTs. My introduction to NFTs was with Rihanna. Because I know that what she used in the crap load of money. But she's so smart. Right? She's a black woman. So what I realized is that Francis tells us about OpenSea, and I know I've been telling my son, a photographer, you should get one of your pictures and try and sell it as an NFT, etc. That's my knowledge until Genie. And then we now know we can use Genie NFTs to scrape actual shares and all this stuff. But could you jump down and really explain to us how knowing what an NFT was and how it was created, and how Genie is using it to do something different from what was my
Thank you. So your question is, if I may start with that, your question is, it sounds like what is an NFT? Like, what is Genius doing with that? Why is that? Why do I want to know about it? Why do I even want Genius NFTs? It sounds like a lot of questions. And and remember, what was it, 2022, or maybe it was 2021, the word of the year was NFT, right? And I just thought it was hilarious that Saturday Night Live and all these television shows were talking about NFTs. Because magically, it seems like people, they're familiar with NFTs, but they're like, yeah, what are NFTs? So I just wanted to start with that, with saying that, hey, it was a word of the year. And you got to remember, these things like, well, Ethereum, Genius token, or Genius AI token, NFTs that people are buying and selling from OpenSea. I think it's important for us all to remember that they are software. They are different pieces of software. Sure, maybe the software only shows you a picture of it and it's a collectible. But these pieces of software, they can all do things for us, like permissionless, trustless. I just want to open with that, because we tend to forget that what it is it's a piece of software. It's a piece of software that we have a token that can interact with that software. We can run calls, run programs. And this is all like pretty abstract stuff, right? Most of us don't think about software and engineering. We just want to use things on our phone. We just want to use things on our computer and get some utility. So that's what, in the context of Genius AI, and I'll pass this over to Dimitri. I know he has a lot with that, and as well Arian, who is with blockchain consulting firm, professional, reliable information that's really important to us. But with Genius AI, the NFTs in the ecosystem are used for that extra functionality. that extra purpose. So with Genius, with that system, Genius wants you to make a commitment. It wants you to put down, Bitcoin. It wants you to put down USDC, stable tokens. It entices you or asks you to back the token value with collateral, right? And maybe the collateral is Genius token itself. But beyond that basic functionality, Genius AI, you can use these NFTs to do things with your commitments or with the ecosystem that you normally can't do. So it's software. It's like software add-ons and plugins.
Yeah, loyalty cards. You've had it in your physical life, or custom membership or whatever membership.
Here actually has like Genius miners and Genius commitments. Let me see hands. Okay, so if you don't have Genius miners, this might not make sense, but a whole part of software and apps on your phone is when you actually use them, they make more sense, right? You got to experience them. But for those of you who have miners, for example, with the NFTs, you have the ability to use an NFT ability to say, hey, you know what, my miner, it ends in 5 days. All I'm going to do is extend that miner. Anyways, all I'm going to do is, collect my earnings from that miner and then put it back in there, put it back in that system because I'm holding on to my Genius tokens, right? You might think that to yourself. So one ability that these NFTs gives you the ability to extend your commitment period for that miner. And on the timeline for Genius AI's AI liquidity launch, you'll see that, what is it, like in a month or two, that you should be able to see all these features and use them in a test environment. Any NFT knowledge for us? Yeah.
I think the NFT from the technology point, it is a great technology, but how we used it in 2021, it was wrong. But people use it for generating images, right? But right now the NFT evolved. People are using it for concert tickets or maybe a ticket for a club. And so many other purposes they are using it from the technology side. But I think initially when they use it for creating images, the piece of software that you can create tons of images, I think it was too early. Maybe 10, 15 years from now, maybe it will be at the peak, but I think 2021, I think it was too early.
Any other questions? Yeah, let's keep these questions going. We'll answer anything you guys want us to answer, no matter how crazy it is, all right? We'll make that deal.
Okay. Yesterday you gave us a brief introduction to blockchain. I'm wondering if you're able to elaborate a little bit more on technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I can give you a simple example. For example, if you have an image in your computer, you can create a multiple image of that by copying, sending us an email, copying and pasting to different folders, and copying and sending to multiple places, WhatsApp, Telegram, anything, right? But in blockchain, if you have a token, say like a Bitcoin or Ethereum, you cannot just copy and paste and create multiple of them. So that is what the blockchain technology itself, that you cannot make changes to the existing one that you created. So in that way, it is safe and secure, and you have a timestamp of everything that you do, that it cannot be duplicated. For example, in a financial world, so anyone can have access to a database. They can go to my account and add a zero or remove a zero of $1 million or $100 million that I have. But in a blockchain, that you cannot do that. Even if someone can able to do it, then there's no trail of that person have done it. So that is in a simple term, and that is what the blockchain is.
Yeah, like blockchain is Yeah, we call it blockchain. We call it blockchain here or there. Remember the time like with internet servers, right? And email. You know, let's say before 1991, ARPANET days with email. Did anybody here use email before 1991? No? Yeah. Do you know why you didn't use email? It was hard as hell to use. Now, I didn't use email back then, but I like studied this. The email addresses were like worse than Bitcoin addresses. I think they were. Yeah. It was very complicated. But people didn't understand, like, well, yeah, okay, I can buy an expensive computer, I can type in some letters and stuff and figure all this out to send an email, but so what? You know, the average person didn't really see, but a lot of business people saw like, oh snap, we could communicate that quickly. Like that'd be awesome. Like for example, if people want to communicate, they got to meet in person, they got to call over the phone and like, yay, thank you phone, we can talk live. But people aren't always available for a phone call. And back then, and even today, if you want to schedule with somebody to talk, that's like, it takes forever, right? Just like, no, I'm not available at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And you're just going back and forth. It was a lot worse 40 years ago, right? I mean, that's my guess. So we might have a question or a comment from the master of ceremonies, Turabify. Dr. Turabify.
If I may. So I am obviously and I'm just wondering if some of these larger companies have to start creating their hedge with investments. What are your thoughts in the diversification of companies' assets? What type of obviously there's different industries, but to diversify the asset quality of the business. What's your thoughts on kind of the revenue amount that's going to get to, or the amount of profit that they like small companies getting that?
I mean, I would say there's the Bitcoin strategy, which is simply, you know, you have a company and you have accounting and all that stuff. I mean, I'm speaking on a personal level or a company level, not too much in the investments world, which Dimitri's got your back on that. Maybe it's like throwing you in there. Well, like there's the Bitcoin strategy where you just hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet. So you don't just have cash on your balance sheet, or you have, you know, this bank account, that bank account, credit cards, or whatever, all those things on the balance sheet. Now you introduce Bitcoin. That
I'm just wondering, is that where companies should be moving? In order to kind of create a way to increase the value of the company on exit, or the utilization of resources as certain.
well, Michael Saylor from the MicroStrategy company, he had like a month ago or something, or maybe less than that. He was on the shareholder meeting call with Microsoft, and he presented to them how companies can't afford to not like join in with this kind of movement. After all, Michael Saylor, you know, he has been promoting the Bitcoin strategy, just getting Bitcoin on the balance sheet and increasing the balance of Bitcoin, which all companies can do. They can take, hey, let's take 5% of our revenue and store that Bitcoin. That's money that we can move anytime, and we don't have to depend on banks and then ask them for permission. Can we please spend $200,000? Is somebody in Vietnam? There's a lot of gatekeeping in that thinking, but well, he did this, and in 4 years, he outperformed the entire S&P 500. So where people were like, yeah, go NVIDIA, my NVIDIA stock is doing amazing and better than anything. And NVIDIA chips are popular right now, right? The Bitcoin strategy outperformed all.
I agree. That's all I'm saying. So depends what your company is trying to invest in. If they're an early stage company and they want to invest in themselves to grow, like growth for company can outpace crypto in general. If you are buying a product or a competitor and you're kind of consolidating product lines, you get synergies that way. You will have full control over your customer base, sure. The problem is you're not in a space of investment in a lot of ways. Let's say you are a car wash owner. Your business is washing cars. And so unless you're very interested in things that your registered investor advisors don't talk about, because they all get paid by, the strategy that they push on you, let's say. You're interested, you can dabble and play. That's a personal strategy. You have a company strategy, you allocate your company capital into it. Your first rule should be don't lose me money. Right? Right now, don't lose me money is bonds or treasury papers, it's 4 to 5%. Inflation is much higher, plus the opportunity cost of not investing in crypto. If crypto goes up, right, even 1x, you're gonna be sorry you made 5% on your money as opposed to 100%. And so it's a strategy of what stage of the company you're in, if you can invest in your own product, or if you want to invest in something in a curve that's gonna take you there. Last 40 years, bonds and stocks would take you there. There was a lot of momentum to get there. We were so much in debt that I don't believe the Max 7 to deliver you on your promises of 30 to 60% growth over the year. Right? They're big, they're established, true. The risks, yes, but they're very big. And if we're operating under assumption that you are allocating 10% of your capital and go high risk, 10% is not gonna do anything for your company. You're not gonna lose much money. Even if you lose 100% of it, I'm sure you can. Depends how much money you have, but it's a risk strategy to get a 10x on a high risk asset. The downside is going to be less than upside, right? And so this is the reason why MicroStrategy is wooing all the investors. Is the fact that they have nowhere to go. Bonds go down in value because US debt is devaluing. Treasury doesn't counter the inflation. So that's why he's saying that it's an ice cube you're sitting on. If you're devaluing, you're sitting in cash, $100 million in cash, and you're 15% losing to inflation. You need to get 15 plus 10% somewhere else. And every percent you get, it's up the risk curve. So how do you find a safe investment at the same time that makes high yield beyond 5 to 10%? You have to go out of the risk curve. So then you go back and say, well, what out of all the risk assets, which ones has more potential to outrun the proverbial lion, right? With less downside. And Bitcoin has been the thing. But you can play more risky games, or you can play more control games on income generation with other crypto. Bitcoin is just being one of them. So that's the premise for allocating Bitcoin or crypto into your treasury.
Making what?
Yes, to answer your question, yes. In a few of the exchanges, you can put Bitcoin as a collateral, you can borrow money. But it is a different platform to platform. Maybe few few platforms will offer you 80%, or the other one 60. I'm not sure, but you can able to borrow money, keeping Bitcoin as a collateral. And the other question that you asked, why people are creating more tokens or coins, right? It is that Bitcoin itself is not used for any kind of utility. It is not used as a utility coin, but many other projects, they create a coin, like for example, Ethereum, right? Every time that you send a token through Ethereum network, you are paying a gas fee. So that is being used as a utility. Right? So other projects, many other projects are creating a token because they want to create a product, a value product, where people can use their token as a utility. That's why many projects are creating their own token.
When Bitcoin came out, well, years after Bitcoin came out, the utility people had was they had some unit, like they had just some amount of numbers that they could send to someone else. And they could say like, hey, will you, my name is so-and-so from the United Kingdom. Can I buy you some pizza for some of those units? That's the whole Bitcoin pizza thing. Or let's say somebody like owed a friend money and said, hey, can I give you some of these units for this Bitcoin thing? And the friend's like, what's Bitcoin? But so Bitcoin first coming out was just like, hey, you can just send this with your friend and back and forth. You can use that as a note of, okay, you owe me $5. I got you pizza last time, I got you dinner last time. And the friend's like, okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, you got me dinner last time, I got you this time. Whatever it is, it was a unit of exchange. That's what we hear, right? And every time I've heard, I don't know about you guys, but every time I've heard unit of exchange, I've just been like, oh, just like went through my head. I didn't pick up anything. But so what happened was with all these coins that came was the thing that happened with Bitcoin many times is people would transact, right? And actually your balance. These transactions can also be like actions, like other things, like actions with software, right? Like the submit button, or submit this form or whatever. So all of these other coins came in because they wanted to do something. Well, there were many reasons for many coins, but ultimately you use it to do a different kind of an action. This is where Ethereum came in, being kind of like a world computer. Because long ago there was something called colored coins, and there were just all these ways people were trying to do computing by using Bitcoin, and it just wasn't working out. And so Vitalik, other people joined forces, and Ethereum was born. And Ethereum said, okay, when you transact, you can do whatever transactions you want. You can do whatever actions you want. And this can be really powerful for society. The first thing they called it was smart contracts. They said, oh, this is like a legal contract that's automatically enforced. And to be frank, I had no idea what the heck that meant. I was like, smart contracts? Okay. It made 0 sense. But hey, I caught up. If maybe another question, or I think we have a little bit of time for another question. Okay. Okay, could you summarize that question and say just a little bit louder as well?
Okay.
Get really close to the mic. There you go.
Okay, so yeah, what I was saying is, say it's a smart contract. I want to understand immutability aspect.
The usability?
No, immutability.
Oh, immutable.
So also, we have assets in the system. How am I sure and happy to save the book? It is a company situation or developers. They say once launch properly, they say those are. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Other questions? Well, you said immutability. Do you all know what immutability means? Yeah, okay, we'll just let you know. It comes from the word mutation, like mutating and changing and stuff like that. Immutability just means that it cannot be mutated, it cannot be changed. It's sort of like when laws are made, right? Like in countries and stuff, people are like, yeah, it's a law of the universe, law can't be changed. And turns out laws can be changed and laws do change over time, thankfully. But immutability here means like the code, the process is going to be the same all the time. As long as you run that code or you run that software or you use that app, the only way to change it is to upgrade your app or to stop using that software and use another one. So how that is in short, something like Genius is the underlying principles of like Ethereum. It's just how the developers do the things, and then it ends up being unchangeable. I have a lot to say on that, but we'll go here.
No, I just want to sort of give an example. Like a bunch of people are trying to dig something, right? They throw, let's say they have gold that they'd like to bury. Let's say you care about that gold. It gets buried, and then 5 people are trying to pile ground on top of it, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, can you dig this out for me? All 5 of them look at each other and say, because too much work. It's not even the money, it's too much work. And so blockchains kind of go in those milestones. The further they move from them burying the gold, the harder it is to reverse that, right? And so contract is a piece of software that gets dropped into the blockchain, gets covered in this layer of blocks, right, over time, and it becomes it operates the way it's supposed to. Nobody can actually change it because nobody's going to go back, dig it out, and change that. You can update things, but that will be a different version. You'll dig another hole in the ground, put a different version, and say, hey, you pile dirt here, and everybody starts using this part. Right? So immutability comes from a property of the blockchain to cement a version of some view world in itself, right? And have the consensus of everybody to say, yep, that's the way it is. And to revert that, they have to do a lot more work. It's either going to be very expensive or people will just not do it.
I think that I just want to add a little bit of more information to that. So once you create a coin, for example, say you have a coin, you are saying I'm going to create a 1 million. Total supply is 1 million. And when you put that smart contract and publish that into Ethereum, then you get a 1 million token equal that name. For example, say Genie token, right? So that number and that name we cannot alter. But that's going to stay there as long as the blockchain is there. But if you want to create a different Genie token than Genie version 2, then whole community need to approve that process. And then you create a new token, Genie 2, and now it's going to have a 10 million. So that 10 million Genie 2 token is different than the Genie 1 token we originally published. So that whatever we publish on the can be altered.
We have time for another question.
It's all to you guys. Are you guys feeling tired?
Man, I see the hands jumping up.
Yeah.
Dude, how about we just take these two?
We got 2 questions here, and then you got
I need you to help us stop keeping ourselves in the. So back in December, there was that urgency in Parliament with the to avoid our being locked in the second half of the year. With anticipation, largely comes in, we don't want to be caught holding the old version of the genie. And so now it's been calculations correct. And the reason why we're doing ourselves is, personally speaking, we are now thinking that a better decision would have been, rather than send our baby to the airdrop, would have been to create a minor, create a few minors with our genie so that we could accumulate those items in the deal. So what can we to make us feel as though we made the right decision, even though we're not collecting or we're not earning our 6 months? What can you say to us that we can stop keeping ourselves in?
Well, one way to help you stop that is hire somebody to kick you in your butt for you. I don't know if Greg's list is as good as stuff again, or but what do you guys have here in Canada? It's like what? Oh, okay. Well, so my personal, it's not to make this thing, but of course share how I feel about it, right? And who here was around during the Genius Sacrifice days? It's called like a sacrifice, like 3 years ago in May. I think I saw one hand. Didn't see Francis at the end, maybe he's in the bathroom, but myself as well. Were you in the sacrifice?
No, I can't believe.
we got one right.
Awesome. Well, once upon a time, there was the Legacy Genius token. It's called that then. It was just called Genius. Now people refer to it as the Legacy Genius token. And this token did nothing. It just said like, hey, I'm a token. And designers of Genius and developers getting on board and people in the community, they said, hey, this Genius token, the idea behind it is, humanity can program value clearly. That was done with Bitcoin, or program money, Bitcoin. Then humanity can program stable tokens, or like algorithmic stable tokens, tokens that somehow know how to keep themselves pegged to the dollar, despite the fact that they really have no way to know that they're a dollar. So algorithmic stable token. And then this Legacy Genius token that did nothing, we're saying, hey, community was saying this is going to be part of that evolution where humanity now creates a stable token that can increase its peg. It can establish a peg, stabilize the peg, and then rise that peg. So we went from humanity can create digital money to humanity can force that money to have a certain value algorithmically. And then next is, well, why can't there be like an algorithmic peg that increases over time? So then people thought, wow, that is really interesting. That is kind of cool. How would that happen? People said, oh, with artificial intelligence, that would happen. Like, oh, okay, artificial intelligence. Something that hadn't been done before in finance, this kind of way. So I'm giving this example because it has a lot to do with this Genius airdrop example, for those of you familiar with the Genius airdrop. With the Legacy Genius token, there was an event called the Genius Sacrifice. And sacrifice events were cool and et cetera back then, even though personally I don't really like the word sacrifice. Just, I don't know, maybe I have a lot of religious trauma, but I do. I don't need it. But so the idea was like, hey, there's going to be some rules of how this is going to work, of how it's going to be honored by the community, and how it will be honored when Genius AI is launched. We're going to try to make these rules, and when I say we, I mean like the developers, the people that were going to honor the sacrifice transactions, sacrifice event. It was an event where what people did was they had a choice. There was liquidity for this token called Genius, and you can send your Genius tokens to this sacrifice address, and you're going to get a piece of the AI token later, or you can do nothing, or you can sell those tokens on the market right now. This happened in 30 days, like a 30-day period. It was an event. You have a choice. You can send stable tokens to the sacrifice address, or you can send the Genius tokens themselves. If you send stable tokens, they'll be worth like $1 worth of sacrifice points. If you send Genius, it'll be worth $3.33 worth of sacrifice points. And then, yeah. And this is kind of how the AI works in a way, but very simplified. So, history story back then, this was meant to show the AI's actions without there being a software. By letting people know, hey, however you transact, you send US dollars to this address or not, that's going to be imported into the new Genius AI contract. Yeah. And so what happened was the value of Genius AI went up like 200x, more than 200x in a single month. There were millions of dollars of liquidity from that, and I met many people who, like, they had the choice of, with that price going up, they had the choice: do I do nothing and wait for Genius to be launched, and then use my dumb legacy tokens that do nothing, use them to acquire the new token that has AI? Or do I send these tokens to the sacrifice address? And then, I get the new tokens anyways. A lot of people were like, no, that's okay. My $1,000 in tokens is now worth $200,000. And I know somebody who, with $150,000, they decided to liquidate. They got $150,000. I didn't know this person before this. They just wanted to tell me their story. We had a mutual friend. And they paid off their home. So they didn't want to be part of this new Genius AI token. They didn't want to be the first to have that token. They said, no, I'm good. So there were a lot of people that made that decision. And despite so many people selling their tokens instead of sacrificing, the price kept going up. And I think before Genius's launch, the value was up like 270 something X. So that was like a 6-9 month period. So here, with the Genius airdrop, go to geniusairdrop.com to see the rules. The Genius airdrop is meant to mimic the AI liquidity, again, in the form of an event. So however you all choose to transact, whether you keep holding on to your Genius tokens, whether you send them to that address knowing that you won't be able to get them until it launches, or you send stable tokens or Bitcoin, whether you do those things, that will be recognized by these smart contracts. Like, that'll be programmed into the smart contracts secure way. It's called Merkle trees for people who how does this happen? Okay, let me think of Merkle tree. Merkle tree or Merkle root. So whether to know which one is the best move, you really have to take some time to read, to hear what your options are, isolate your options, and then look at them and see how much they fit with your own personal passion, desire, your short-term plan, your long-term plan. You'll have to look at it on an individual. I hope that helps. That's a really good question and pretty complicated to answer. And you'll find in a year from now, it'll be a very easy one to answer. Because hindsight is always 20/20.
what determines the value of how does the value of the token increase over time? Is it based off of the number of transactions that are happening with that token in the space? And in such a way, is the AI algorithm determining what the value of one will be and then providing that as a on top of what you would necessarily get back from it?
Yeah, maybe I can answer a few in that. So what makes the token value go up? It is all about demand and supply, and more people start using the token, the more users are getting into the ecosystem. That will drive the value up. It's same like a stock market. Like you may have a stock trading for $1 for over a period of 20 years, and all of a sudden that people got interested on buying that stock because they find there's no value. So when more people start coming, you only have a limited supply, the value will start going.
How much time do I have? All of it is true in the regular market, right? It's supply and demand. Third party is a market maker. You only have the two parties need to be transparent. The market maker actually has full money to meet the demands, right? So even though the market is illiquid, they're trying to say, hey, I'm going to lower the entry price or I'm higher than the selling price, so you can continue selling the velocity. But that's good for exchanges. That's good for market makers. Now, one of the revolutionary things about Genius AI is that there is a third way. The third way is to have in-contract on the blockchain liquidity. Imagine that you have AI that is buying things from you, or selling things to you, and is trying to meet your price automatically. If you're not taking it, it either lowers it or makes it higher. So there's no market maker, there's no exchange, there's no third party that actually does transaction between you and your contract. This is what will allow to value token like Genius AI in a different way than just supply and demand. What's going to happen is the liquidity is going to be managed by the AI contract. And so even though there's lack or not enough people transacting, there's no market maker that makes them transact. It's going to be AI dynamically lowering bids or increases bids amount to make sure people actually sell to it.
Well, with the note on supply and demand, I'm giving a presentation right after this about to give good insight on that, and especially insight that I think would be invaluable to people who are interested in Genius AI, kind of like project our goals in the future, but it's supply and demand. And what we've seen is, we've seen like Bitcoin show, okay, the supply is known, the supply is increasing at a predictable rate, but ultimately the supply is not going to be more than a certain amount of Bitcoins. So we've seen that have a huge effect, like the more demand grows. So like the value of stuff is supply and demand, right? Well, it's probably a lot more, but it's a basic like economic principle that people look at, supply and demand. And what Genius does is Genius does two things. Pretty much every token out there, or there are many tokens, smart contracts, where they change their supply. Any of you have heard of Ample or others will rebase their supply, they'll change it. Because they're thinking, all right, great, there's not a lot of demand, we can at least change our supply so that to match that demand. Or if there's too much demand, then we can change our supply. So Genius AI intelligently changes its supplies based on when you and everyone else does with the token. But Genius AI, the one thing Genius AI does that no other token or cryptocurrency does, and I've been looking for them everywhere, like 4 years, and I'm obsessively looking. Genius AI is the only system that influences its demand. It knows what you want, and it was programmed to assume that you want profits, that you want price appreciation. It was programmed to assume that, and it has a strategy to do that. There are many people who don't use Genius AI for the whole mining aspect or the commitment aspect. There's many ways that you can. You see, smart contracts cannot run themselves, right? Somebody has to act. Somebody has to transact in order for the smart contract to run itself. And Genius AI was programmed to know this. And so it gives constant incentives with its collateral, with its Ethereum, with its Bitcoin, constant incentives within the market for you to transact for it, for you to do the actions for it. It influences its own demand. It influences, for those who are paying attention, it's quite a moneymaker for the techie people, the people that make bots and stuff and that understand Genius. So yeah, so I think that's incredible. Genius is the only thing that influences its supply, changes its supply, and influences its demand, which ultimately is where the value comes from. Economy things, right? It's useful. So I find it very exciting, and thank you all for your questions. I believe we have a break now. We need to do a mandatory break. I'm sure many of you also have to pee. All right, we got it.
Cool. I'm not going to keep it up to this amazing time. We're going to take a break. Give us some time to chill. Okay, give you guys some time to chill. I'm sure there's a lot of information in your head.
Stretch your legs. I think I saw some people dozing off, so get some coffee in you, because there is some amazing speeches coming up here in a second. Arian's going to present about all the stuff that he knows. Robert's going to go a little bit more into Genius. AI crypto events, just for the record, are not just for Genius. Okay, it's for all types of technology. So I hope you guys understand. There's a lot of moving parts, and take a break, take a load off.